Hi everybody, welcome back to Camrose. Just a reminder, if you're out there in internet land and watching virtually, please send in your questions, AOS at rockymtn.com, and we'll try to answer those as best we can. We do have some, Jasmine's going to come back for a couple of questions here in the next little bit. So if you have questions on the Libra cart, feel free to send those in as well. She can answer those at that time. And now we've got Grant, who's going to talk about residue management.
You betcha. Thanks, Chad. Okay, so residue management, earlier I talked about thrashing and separating being the most important part of the combine. Of course, residue management becomes, in a lot of ways, the most important part about seeding, right? Because if we can't control the residue at the start out of the combine, it does promote some other problems at seeding. But today we'll talk about it in the terms of combine. Sorry, the clicker is unclicking. So, rear discharge beater, it's a pretty important piece of equipment inside the body of the combine at the back end. So the rear beater can have a blanking plate, which is right here, installed to stop trash from falling down on the top sieve. So obviously, if the trash is falling down on the top sieve, we're going to plug up that top sieve, might increase your returns. We're certainly going to have some grain quality issues. Rule of thumb, install it, leave it in. Don't take it out, okay? It does say shipped uninstalled on all machines. Ironically, since 2021, we've actually made it installed at the factory. So no longer does it come inside the cab of the combine. It is installed in the combine. Don't take it out, leave it in there. I've seen situations where guys have taken it out and have had serious loss issues with grain. Beater grate adjustment bolt on left-hand and right-hand side to change straw direction. The clearance should be 10 mil. So 10 mil, and that clearance is really important to make sure you have the proper clearance in there. Too tight, too short, you're going to have residue problems. You're going to have grain coming out the back end of your combine. Okay. Straw choppers. Once it goes through the beater, then it goes through the straw chopper. We have essentially two different styles of straw choppers. We've got a standard straw chopper and a deluxe straw chopper. Majority of the people that are purchasing combines today in Alberta, Western Canada, are purchasing the deluxe straw chopper. It becomes more beneficial when you're dropping straw. In a lot of essence, it's really the only time that it's a better benefit over the standard choppers when you're trying to drop straw. So, feeds the chopper. So when we say it feeds the chopper, there's another slide here that's going to show it better, but it actually takes the straw off the PSD conveyor at the back that needs to be adjusted and drops it right on top of the chopper. Makes it more efficient to chop. Deluxe straw chopper configurations, you can chop straw and spread chaff. Something else we can do. So, or you can chop straw and drop chaff. You can windrow straw and spread chaff. So that's kind of a feature that we've had for a long time is if you're dropping the straw for bedding purposes to bale up afterwards and you don't want any chaff in there, we can actually still spread the chaff out, which a lot of other combines can't do. Windrow straw and drop chaff, of course, at the same time. If you want to have that in, maybe you're going to use that straw for feed as well. Our clicker is working slower than I imagined. There we go. So here's chopping mode, windrowing mode. When I mentioned before that on the deluxe chopper, here's a conveyor right here in behind the beater. So as the product comes off the beater, it shoots upward to the top of the combine housing, if you want to call it that, and then deflects downward onto this conveyor here. If it was a regular chopper, or a standard chopper, as we say, this conveyor is not here, so then the product would just drop straight down into the chopper. The chopper rotor itself is the same, okay? So it comes down here, and you see how it feeds directly down in on top of the chopper instead of feeding in this way. Does that make sense to everybody? So again, that's the benefit. Here's our chopping mode, down through the chopper, out through the residue fins. if we want to drop straw for baling purposes, there's this door right here closes downward. It doesn't show it in this picture here, but it does close downward this way so that the straw then goes from the conveyor over top of the straw chopper hood. And then there's 2 big fins at the back of the straw chopper hood that you can narrow up your windrow, or you can spread out your windrow if you're dropping straw. Is there many guys in this room that are dropping straw? Okay. Another reason to drop straw though too, guys, is for checking for losses. If you drop your straw, it's another, how do I say this now? You're gonna use less power when you're dropping straw, of course, as you're turning your rotor off, so the product's not going through the rotor. But it's another way to check for losses to see if you've got more losses in the swath when you're dropping. So one thing that I want to talk about that's not in the slide presentation here is our difference in our 2 choppers. So we've got a 6-row chopper and we've got a 4-row chopper, okay? When I say 6-row and 4-row, if we look at this chopper right here, this is a 4-row, okay? There's chopper blades going north, south, east, west. And a 6-row chopper, there's extra 2 rows of blades on there. So the 4-row chopper does a fantastic job of chopping straw already. How many guys here are running 6 rows, just for interest sake? Everybody's running, you guys have a 6-row? With OptiSpread, perfect. I'm glad you brought up the OptiSpread. So he has a 6-row chopper with OptiSpread. Now, these ones here, the residue management at the back end of this is just a bunch of fins, okay? So the product comes out of the chopper, hits the fins, and then it spreads it out the width of the swath of the header, okay? The other thing that's inside of here too is wind knives. So the wind knives are, instead of a straight, let's say this is the knife. Of course, I don't have any props like John had before because he's keeping all the props to himself. But if this was the knife and we had a wind knife, there would be an angle off of the knife on the back to create more, literally, wind to help push that straw out to the wider parts of the chopper to get it spread out wider. Say you've got a 40-foot header and you're using the traditional fins, you're probably going to use a couple extra wind knives to help push that product out to the side. Now, these gentlemen here have an OptiSpread. So the OptiSpread is 2 fans underneath, for lack of better words, that are controlled with hydraulic motors, okay? And you can speed up and slow down the speed of the hydraulic motors. You can actually, there's a deflector at the back of the OptiSpread that looks like this, trying to make a kind of a U shape, okay? And that deflector can move in and out, up and down, side to side, and that'll actually help, say you've got a crosswind, those deflectors will actually help fill in the spread because you're going to overspread on one side, but when you come back the next direction, it'll fill in that gap, like a spin spreader, for lack of better words, okay? The other thing that comes standard with OptiSpread are 6-row choppers. So it isn't north, south, east, west, it's 6 rows of chopper blades. So right away, we know already that we're doing a fantastic job with a 4-row chopper of chopping our product. You go to a 6-row chopper and there's nothing behind that combine, is there? She's just tiny bits of pieces, which again, as I mentioned at the start, residue management is a key to having a good seed bed or starting with seeding in the springtime, right? So the finer that stuff is chopped, the more evenly it's spread out, the easier it is, or the less work you have to do for spring preparation. Now, something else that we've come up with in 2021 was a 6-row chopper for the traditional fin size. So if you don't want to get OptiSpread, say you're only using a 30-foot head, OptiSpread isn't ideal for a 30-foot head because it's designed for above 40-foot heads, 50-foot heads, right? It's designed to really push out to the sides, okay? So if you want to just use the traditional fan system or fin system that we have here and bump up to a 6-row chopper, you can do that now. So you want to chop finer, you bump up from the 4 to the 6-row. One of the issues that we've had with OptiSpread, and we haven't had a lot of issues with it because it does really do a fantastic job of spreading, plus you can control a lot of the settings in it. These fins, you can control the adjustments and the width of them from inside the cab of the combine, right? But the OptiSpread, again, it's hydraulically driven, so clearly you've got more settings or changes, right? But above It's not this door here. Is it this door here, John? John's just off to the side, and I'm using him as a prop. But it's one of these two doors here. I'm just going to say one of these two doors. If we went to the back of this combine, I could show you which one it is. But what's happening is we've started to louver that door for your OptiSpread, okay? So we don't have anything in our part system right now.
It's kind of the one that sits right in here.
It's kind of the one that sits in there, yes. Okay.
Right about there.
We don't have anything in our part system right now, but trust me when I say it's coming fast, because we've had these issues. And what's happening is from the air created from the spinning of the OptiSpread and the air created from the chopper, we're getting like a plugging area, I guess. For lack of better words, it's plugging. The two air pressures are working against each other and everything's plugging up. Are you guys having that problem with yours?
Okay.
So what we've designed, or what we've had, actually, honestly, our dealers are sometimes our best engineers, hands down. So a couple of our dealers have come to us and said, hey, we louvered that door to exhaust that air pressure. So what's happened is once we've louvered that door, exhausted that air pressure, we have not had plugging issues since. Have you guys done that and louvered that door?
It's coming.
Okay,
You got
it's
one coming?
Okay, good.
Good.
So that's probably the biggest issue that we've had with OptiSpread. Is that the only issue you guys have had with OptiSpread?
Yeah, just
Yeah.
Okay, so the customers here are saying that with them not having that louvered door, they're definitely getting plugging because you've got that imbalance of air pressure.
Yeah, so kind of what happens is when you have this style of a spreader with the fins on here, with the chopper spinning in there, it does create air pressure in there. And it uses that air pressure to push the material through on the fins to give you your spread. Now, what we do when we go to OptiSpread is we just take this off and just put the spinners on there. That air pressure is still here, but we don't necessarily need it. And these fans that go on here create back pressure, so it actually increases the pressure in the chopper even more. So what this exactly what Grant just described, this louvered plate that goes in, I believe it on this picture is not quite correct, but I mean, it goes right here and it vents that air pressure out of the chopper itself and allows these spinners to do their job better too. And then the other thing that happens as a result too is we're actually starting to see an increase in our life on our chopper blades too on OptiSpread machines. The symptom for anybody that's sitting here wondering, oh, you got a plugging problem, well, what's going on here? What's happening is we've got excessive air pressure in here, and what happens is the material coming out of the beater hits this belt, and then there's quite a bit of air pressure right here, and the material can't get into the chopper. It's actually being lifted and held up, and then it just plugs. So usually the plug the alarm that goes off in the cab is the PSD belt stalls. That's the first alarm you see.
Which you guys have probably all had with wet canola straw, right?
So usually when you guys come into farm shows or into these events, you sit there and look at me and go, when are you going to do something with that PSD belt? And I usually go, well, what? There's nothing wrong with it. What are you talking about? And then when I finally get the whole story, I find out that, yeah, it starts plugging here all the way back into the beater. Your plug is usually right here. The chopper is all clear. It doesn't look like it's a chopper issue, but it's actually the chopper that's causing it. And this is where the plug is it's usually right in this area right here.
Well, the other side of that, too, John, is when OptiSpread was first developed, it was developed on a 4-row chopper, not a 6-row chopper. So now we've gone and put 2 more rows of chopper blades in there, which has clearly increased more chopper fan pressure, if we want to call it that. So do you think there's a chance that could happen with the 6-row chopper and the regular spreader?
No, not necessarily, because like I said, the chopper on this setup here, the pressure that gets built up in there is used for spreading, because it actually vents out the back through those fins. Yeah. But when we take those off and put the fans on there, that pressure can't go anywhere, and the fans actually end up pushing back into the chopper and creating more pressure, and it just causes it kind of compounds the problem. And usually where it shows up is, like I say, it'll plug back in here.
And I think what's happened because of that plugging, it's not, how many years have you had your OptiSpread combine for? 2 years. 2. Yeah. So you've had it the whole 2 years, right? Essentially. Yeah. So what's happened is guys running bigger than 40-foot headers have gone to, that's another reason I believe we came out with a 6-row chopper, so that we've got finer material so we can get it spread out. And guys have gone away from OptiSpread because it was plugging, right? But I think with this louvered door, it'll get people back into the OptiSpread. It might be a little bit more money to purchase up front, but you're going to find that it's going to do a lot better job of evenly spreading the residue across the width of your cutter head.
Fine chop and properly spread is a big
Yeah.
step in starting the season for
Well,
the
it
next
makes
year.
your spring work so much, or your fall work, whatever.
Especially with our precision hoe drills and things like
Yeah.
that are very sensitive to trash management. It's, yeah, trash management starts right here.
That's where it
Yeah,
starts,
so.
100%.
That's why there's a lot of attention put on the chopper and our combines for that reason.
And we've, you know, you guys all run New Holland combines. We probably don't have to tell you that our chopper is 9 times out of 10 is the better chopper on the market. Just make sure, I guess that's the other thing too, is we're talking about choppers, and one of the biggest downfalls of your chopper not working properly is your knives are wore out, okay? We always say, run them one season, flip them for the second season, replace them on the third season. Some guys, if you're pulling them all off to flip them, they're just gonna replace them, right? In fact, I talked to another company about using a third-party chopper blade from a strong third-party chopper manufacturer, and he said that our New Holland blades still lasted longer than those blades did, because a lot of people have talked about going to that third-party blade. The chopper will not perform properly with dull blades. That's just the bottom line. And it's going to use more horsepower. And we just finished saying that residue management at the back of the combine is what sets you up for seeding next season.
Grant,
Yes.
on the Revelation combines, the RPM is quicker, isn't it, on the choppers now than it was in the previous models?
I haven't noticed that.
Okay, so for everyone out there, the question was from Jeff. He was saying that the chopper RPM has been increased. To answer the question, yes, the chopper speed was turned up. Oh boy, I better get my history right here. 2018.
Okay.
So when the
still
yellow grain
evolution.
tank went on the combine, yeah,
Yeah.
the yellow grain tank, the chopper was increased from 3,500 RPM to 4,000
On a 4-row chopper.
on all of them.
All of them? Okay.
Both. And again, that was to address just long straw getting through. We just wanted to make sure we were chopping it.
And that's just one thing that we've noticed when we were talking aftermarket chopper blades.
Yeah.
Is they were working great in the older machines, but the newer machines
Yeah.
can't handle that extra RPM and
Yeah.
they're breaking.
Breaking.
And they're going, they're, where that bolt goes through, they're coming off and they're going into, like, causing some damage.
I guess one other question I'd throw back at you guys is, with the new plastic covers on top of the chaff spreaders, have you had any premature wear on those? Or any wear on those? Okay.
I haven't seen any, but I know guys in Australia have been telling me that they're having issues.
I was at another combine clinic yesterday, and that came up 2 or 3 different times, that those plastic shields on top of there are wearing.
The initial ones, the very first ones, they were wearing
Yeah.
faster, but there was an update made to the material that went on those covers on the chaff spreader. The way to tell if you have the updated one or not is when you go and look at it, if it's got little quarter turn nuts holding it on, that's the old style.
Okay.
The new style, they're actually a bolt clamping it on. You actually have to undo a bolt
okay.
now. If they're bolted, they're the updated ones. That's the way you can tell. And the updated ones, as far as I know, have been working well.
And when was the update?
I want to say in 2019, but it may have been closer to model year 20. I think it might have been a running change during the model year 19.